Hello, everyone. So we will start in couple of minutes, maybe like max to max 4 to 5 minutes, so that max folks can join. Meanwhile, anyone like to um, like uh, like share your thoughts, anything? Please go ahead. Like any suggestions are welcome. We can utilize this time actually. Meanwhile, folks are joining. So anyone like to say anything? Please go ahead.
This is Suresh here. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Hi, Suresh. How are you?
Yeah, good. How are you?
I'm fine.
How do
Thank
you
you.
how do you practice how do you get hands-on? The one you're going to teach today, will you be able to do hands-on on parallel or just the
You,
class?
you actually you can do both, right?
Okay.
And so of course we'll share the code structures and everything, right?
Okay.
And possibly we'll have this workshops like every week, right? First of all, like this custom data chatbot, what we'll do today, we'll go through the code in deep dive every segment, so you will understand what you're going to write, right? And then I will share all the code snippets, all the libraries, because you need certain tools at your system, right? You may or may not have. So like maybe you can configure those things, and we have a Discord channel, right? And I request that all of you please join that to have more interactive, so that if by any chance during your once you're setting up certain things you face any issue, we can discuss that and we can maybe get on call and solve those issues. And then maybe in the next session we can actually do in parallel as well, but at least you can get those things ready. So
Okay,
Suresh.
got it. Yeah, yeah. I don't have
Mhm.
anything in my system installed, so that's the reason I'm
Right.
asking. Yeah.
Right. So you yeah. So I think like we have a Discord channel. Right. I think many folks have started joining. We are also
Okay.
starting the Python series as well. So
Yeah.
that and the Python series is from foundation till AI. So that will
Okay.
actually help you to understand the entire picture, right? And possibly we'll have like daily even 15-20 minutes connect on and off,
Okay.
so that will like and any questions, please feel to ask. If you face any issue in setup, anything, then we can always get on call like at a suitable time and discuss those things.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else like to suggest anything, please? Any queries so far?
Thank
Yeah.
you for taking the time, Nishit. Excited to see what's going to come up. No suggestions as of this moment.
Right, right. We are in plans of launching our own platform, so that like I know that how much money you spend at times and on OpenAI, all those things. We are coming up with our own platform, like maybe by end of this year, so that you can like sign up and you will given at least like more than any other platform gives number of tokens, so you can practice, do those sessions for practice. Let me show you one just a quick glance of it, because I've been doing some testing on top of it. uh, yeah, let me know when my screen is visible. Is it visible?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So it's a kind of 1 second, let me. Yeah, so it's a platform basically, right? Oh, you can see, you can't see that. Let me show you. Let me switch my screen. Yeah, entire screen. Let me show that. Okay. So now I think that will make it more visible. Yeah, yeah. So this is of course that will be like we're actually launching our own coding agent platform. So that is like you can play around as much as you want, right? Of course, as long as you are under the required limit, and you can practice more and more. So we are actually it's undergoing testing. So that is like more like it's more like it will be get embedded in our platform. So that's very customized agent. So you can actually ask any Python questions, any like Java related questions. It's typical coding agent. So that will help you to enhance your knowledge, and you can practice with this as well. So yeah, this is one of the just a glimpse of this platform, but yeah, it will maybe like by the end of this year, you can actually, yeah, go ahead. Please ask questions. Yeah. 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 So, so
I have a
someone,
question, please.
yeah, please, go
Where's
ahead.
the chat? I don't see the chat window. Can I
The chat window.
send the chat window on the Google Meet? I don't see the chat window on here.
The chat is on the bottom right corner.
The
So
bottom
if you
right.
see the
corner.
icon with the people,
Oh
and then
yeah,
there's
I
an
have to
icon
click on
with a
that.
speech bubble.
I got it. Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. Happens. Yeah. So yeah, so actually, like we're very excited that okay, by the end of this year we'll have our own platform, and you can later on, maybe like in next after 2 sessions, we'll be practicing. You can just actually like sign up, and you can play. We can actually practice on this platform. So with together, right? So these are things we are coming up. We are also coming up with our own system, like you might have a collab, like Google Collab and all these kind of platforms, right? So that platform, like the Nishayat platform that we are launching, will also have its own coding. Yeah, definitely. It will be like so. This we are developing this platform called community. Of course, there will be certain resource limitations, but as long as you are within that resource limitations, you can use it as much as you want. And after that, of course, there could be some subscriptions, but mostly, I think it will be used. Yes. Crystal, yes, yeah, definitely. It will be shared in Discord, and we already going to start our channel. We already have a Python dev channel where we can actually have an open discussion. We can create our own chatbots and all. Right? So I think we can start in the interest of time. I think like we'll see that if there's anyone also trying to join. Yeah. I think we have 4 of Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So okay, I think we can start. So let me tell you that what we are going to learn on this in this entire session, right? Usually, let me. What happens is whenever you in your normal day-to-day schedules, like you have lots of documents to read, especially like in our daily routines, right? We have lots of PDFs, we have CSVs, we have text files, right? To read. Now, how this custom data chatbot will help you? You can actually upload your documents into this custom data chatbot locally without sharing outside your company, because your company can have their own constraints, right? And apart from this, you can still query your database, your query across your documents, whether it's a PDF, whether it's CSV, TXT files, and whether it's a Word documents. You can easily query that. So that saves lots of your time. Let me see who's one's turn. Sorry. Right. So it actually saves a lot of your time in actually in going through rather than going through those documents, you can directly query it. Now, so what we will explore today, right? These are the things. We'll actually learn how to load and process the PDFs, CSVs, and text files. That is the first part of it. The second part of it is converting those documents into the embeddings, right? The third part of it is retrieving based on a query. You can retrieve, this system will retrieve the relevant context from the vector DB that we are using. We'll be using Chroma DB for now. And as we go along in different sessions, we'll be using PG vectors and Pinecon, like there are different platforms out there based on your requirement. And then how the RAG actually, that is retrieval Retrieval-Augmented Generation, Power Intelligent Chatbots, how it works. And then you can create your own mini chatbot that you can use at your personal system without connecting to internet, right? You can actually play around, you can query anything you can do. And that is so, and that will be, so you can learn as well. And later on, if you want to make it like available to your online as well, in next couple of sessions, we'll show you how to deploy those into the Amazon Web Services, GCPs, and other different platforms available. And of course, that will cost you. Sometimes they gives you certain credits, and sometimes you can actually, you can, of course, if you're ready to shell your own money from your pocket, that's up to you completely, right? Now, so coming to that, back to my slide, document processing, as we say, embeddings, vector database, RAG pipelines, user interface. User interface could be both of them, right? It could be the CLI or it could be UI. So UI, I actually just showed you the Nishai look that that's an interface that will be available like very soon online. You can so there are different libraries in a Python that you can be used in order to make the APIs available. And then you can also create a user interface, maybe in different languages. We have HTML, we have React, Angular, or even in Python as well. You can create certain interfaces as well. So we'll teach you in next other sessions and in Discord channels as well. And so this is all. And also along with this, in continuation, we'll show you what is the best practices in order to get the accurate result, performance, scalability. At least in your system, usually like what I suggest is like, since if you're creating the LLMs at your system, I usually suggest at least you should have like more than 8 GB RAM, somewhere on, I usually prefer 16 GB RAM at least, and on an average, so that if you should have a flexibility that based on different LLMs that you're running, right? Local LLMs from Olama, right? Your system should not get overburdened, right? Because it will stop sometimes responding and it will run out of the resources. So a decent configurations is required if you're running at your local system. Otherwise, there are also things available like Collabs, Google Collabs, other platforms. I will share the links as well where you can try to set up, but like it's up to your choice, right? Any questions so far? Yeah, you can actually like put your questions in the chats as well, and I will take a break after every couple of slides, and we'll try to answer them. And some of them I can answer at the end, or you can ask in the Discord channel as well, if any further queries you have, right? So as I was discussing, what are the problems that usually we face, like like in customs, when we don't like we have lots of documents, as I mentioned, thousands of documents, PDFs, data files. It's time consuming to search, limited search capabilities, and of course hard to find the related informations. Like as we know, like most of you, even if we are not in this group, even if folks are from non-technical background, beginners or experts, right? We know it's a pain to go through multiple documents, and if we are going through one document, we often like our mind has a limited memory. No matter how sharp we are, we cannot remember like 100,000 pages of book. And if there are multiple books and we need to connect the dots, it's not practically possible, right? And that's why we can actually create our own mini chatbot that will help us to make for the best efficient usage of our time and energy, right? Coming to the solution, like custom data chatbot, right? What will be doing in this entire session. Natural language queries, ask questions in a plain language. You can use your own language. And I think like you might have noticed, like recently Meta, I think it's I will just there's news that came up with a 1600 plus languages, right? So there are different open source already available, right? You can, even if you are from different regions on the globe, you want to use your own languages, you can use it as well. don't think that, okay, you just have to use your English. We don't have to just use English in order to communicate to a chatbot. No, the answer is no. You can actually type, you can query the chatbot in your own language, provided your chatbot is trained for that context, right? Because at the end of the day, chatbot, any vector database it doesn't understand your language. It depends upon whether your LLM is actually, or your vector databases that you're using, are they actually trained against that language or not, whether it's English, Chinese, Japanese, or like maybe Mexican, any Hindi, right? They're different. We in this group, I'm sure that there are people from different backgrounds, right? From different with their different mother tongues, and they want that. Okay, there could be a system they want to communicate in their own mother tongue. Yes, the answer is in the chatbot. You can use your own mother tongue in order to communicate with a chatbot. That will give us a flexibility, right? Taking one of the examples, if you have your open API, right, AP chatbot, I mean chat GPT at your mobile, right, you can see that if you ask that chat GPT that, okay, I want to communicate in Hindi, right, you can easily do that. Semantic, find meanings, not just keywords. Provide relevant, accurate responses. Yes. Show where the information came from. Add new documents. What I know I might be going slow, but once we jump into the code, it will be much faster. But it's very important to understand, like wherever I go more technical, just let me know, so I can get more into layman terms. One of the thing is, suppose if I say that, okay, Google launched a Gemini with version 10, right? If I say that, okay, Google launched a Gemini with version 10, how it's not true, right? Definitely, but you still need a proper reasons. You still need a proper like a source. You will ask, Nishit, what is the source of it? Because I want some grounds in order to trust you, right? Here this source of citations comes into picture, so that you can actually, like in chatbots, it is when you are creating your own chatbot, it is also good that even if it is interacting, you should always give a small button of citations or sources, so that it makes it more relevant for the end user to trust on your information that you are sharing, right? I cannot why you will trust me if I'm not showing you, if I'm not if I'm not backing my answer with the proper sources, precisely authentic sources, right? If I just go and search AI dev works, right, .org, if I open this site, right, there's a resources pool, right? We have like a list of 500 resources, right? We are trying to reach it more than 1,000, right? You can just play around, you will find lots of platforms. And so we wanted that whatever information we are sharing with you guys, you always have a right to validate it, whether it's right or wrong. We do our validations on our side, but to increase the trust, this particular point is also important. If it is especially the consumer facing or user facing, like public facing info, like a chatbot, right? Always up to date, add new documents any system. So that's the best part of the RAG, right? Now jumping onto the actual how the RAG pipeline, how it works, right? Most of you might already know, but like we'll go through the code as well, right? Let's talk about uploading a documents, right? We'll go through every step, and then we'll actually, what I will do, for the best part of it, let me do one thing. Let me open the code snippets as well, so that you can easily connect the dots as what we are doing, and then we'll go into the code as well, right? We'll go step by step in this workshop, right? Upload documents. You dump all your papers on the desk, right? It's just try to use a more real life scenario so that you can connect. We load your PDFs, CSVs, and text files. Think of it as gathering all your documents in one place before it goes, right? Let me take this example. Of course, I will share this as well, right? Now, I've actually created one small, let's talk about ingest. Ingest means injecting the data into a system, injecting a data into your Chroma. So I'm using Chroma DB. We'll get into further details in this session itself. What I'm doing is I've created a data folder that has some PDFs, that could have some text files, that could have some CSV files, as I mentioned here, right? You dump all your papers on the desk. Oh, I can see some of it. Right, right. So if I try to connect the dots, right, as we speak, we'll go through the code as well. Upload the documents, right? We load your PDF, CSV, and text file. Think of it like gathering all your documents in one place before organizing them, right? Yeah, right. So definitely, if I see that, and what I'm trying to do in this, I have a data folder, right? I'm just going through. I have already given the path that, okay, boss, this is a path of data, right? And I'm loading all the documents, whether it's a PDF, whether TXT and CSV, into this docs, right? So this is the first step, right? Uploading the documents into this, right? Of course, these libraries, of course, you will require. That's local for locally, but then what is the next step in this? Give me a second. Let me show you what. Now, going to the next step is process and chunks, right? Now the question arises that why we want to actually process, why we want to divide the documents. We can simply upload the every document and then just directly dump it into a database. Why we need this process? Why we need to split this into a smaller pieces? Like why it is required to split it, right? So that is very important question, right? Now think in this way that in your mind you can, how much book you can remember, like 1,500, like if you, even if you're a genius, you can remember like millions of pages, right? But there are billions of documents, right? Now think is in prospects of a LLM, right? If you give that LLM a 500 pages book, right, and say that, okay, find out your own answer, right, there's a chances that it will start hallucinating. The reason is that the LLM has a limited context, right? Like a human, no one can memorize, like as I mentioned, the 300 pages book. Maybe you can read 80 pages book or something, I mean 40, 30 pages in a chunks, and then you can remember well, right? So if the chunks are too large, the system might retrieve irrelevant paragraphs or entire chapters. Possible, there's a chances, because you are confusing it. The LLM can get confused, right? Whenever you are dealing with an LLM, don't think that it's a Einstein or it's a genius, right? Based on our information that we support, these information that we provide, it makes it a genius one, right? So if I go back to the documents, right, what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to ingest, I'm trying to send the data, right, in this thing, right? Readers, we have different readers, of course. We can add docs as well, or any format that exists on this globe, we can always use it, right? Now we are splitting it, right? Splitting it into 200 chunk size and 15. 200 chunk size means, like, if your document is of 100 pages, like I will actually split it into 200 size, right? Let me give you an example, right? Now let me take a notepad, actually, that will actually work. Yeah, that's a good example, right? If I use this statement, right, right, chunk, if I take this statement, let me know if it is visible enough, right? Right, this is a sentence, for example, right? Um, what do you mean by chunk? Where we talk about the chunks. Let's take in simple. Let me take the query. What we am trying to do: chunk and overlap, right? It has own relevance. I will tell you in the next 2-3 slides why I'm emphasizing on these things, right? If it is a, like, it could be like, I can use this, right? For example, chunk means it will split it into 200 pages. Maybe let's reduce it to 10, right? After every 10, it will split this into chunks, right? like this, 10, 10, right? Now, the thing is, why we need this overlapping, right? If I say that, okay, why? Because AI model have limited and smaller chunks. This won't give a LLM a sufficient context, because it is like you are giving like what is, if I just say that what is, right? Then will you get a context that what could be the thing that outside the, what is? Why is we split huge? If I say why is split huge, like of course you can interpret in a different way. Like if I just say why is split huge, then you can think of that, okay, like there's a anything can come up, right? Why you split a huge pie, right? Or cake, or or anything else, right? What do you think, right? But we're talking about the documents. Documents could be one of the things that you can think of, right? So that's why we need overlapping, so that actually you can actually, when we are splitting it, you can still tell that boss that, okay, even if I'm splitting, take 5 from both the sides, right? From the document, from both the sides. If it is this document, it will take 5 from here, so that at least it will try to gather more context rather than just leaving in between, right? There's no fixed calculation for this. It's about based on your data. I have a matrix, so I will share that as well. How you can efficiently split. When if you have a documents, you can, based on that, you can understand how you can split, right? But I'm just giving you a context why chunk size and chunk overlap is important when you're actually splitting the documents over here, right? This is basically a rule that you are telling that, boss, this is a recursive character text splitter, chunk size, and split whatever you have into this. So I already got a doc. I created a doc of, right, with different documents, and then I want to split it. I will split that, and I'm using this Nomac embedded text, right? It is around, I think it's 768 dimensions. So, and then we'll upload it into a Chroma DB. Simple. In this way, let me go back to this, and this is my window, right? Just for your knowledge, I suggest that there's something called for your better, like for your so that you can get access to multiple environments. I suggest use this Anaconda Navigator, right? Download it at your system. I will share the links and as well in the Discord and as well in Meetup group. But I suggest that, okay, download this Anaconda. See that what are the different options it gives. It's like this. It gives so many options to you, right? I like it. Reason it gives for my R&Ds and all these things. It gives me a edge where I can create my own LLMs, right? If I want to create a new thing, I can select the name. I can say the package. For example, if I use to, sorry, if I test, right? Maybe it's not right, but you can select your own Python versions as well, right? And here, so yeah, maybe it's causing some trouble, but yeah, I can tell you that you can create your own environments, right? Over here, you can select the Python versions and all, and you can create your own environment for testing. So I suggest I will share the links and download this Anaconda Navigator, so that you can actually create this. Like I created multiple environments like ML, RAG underscore, Meetup, all these environments I created it for this. Even for this session, I created one environment called RAG underscore OLM. When I actually click on this, 1 second. Yes. Yes, Betty. Yeah. Well, what is the purpose to break the documents into chunks? LLM cannot reach the huge files. Yes. Yes. So the example I explained. Did you answer your question? Did it answer your question? So yeah, so it cannot. Yeah, so it's better that what is the purpose to break the documents? Yes, that's what I explained in this text box, so that they can get the context. LLM cannot read. An LLM has a limited, like every LLM has a limited context. It is not endless, right? Think in this way. I'm just telling you for knowledge. We think that Open API and all these things have endless resources. There's a limit. I think I will share that limits actually with what Gemini and OpenAI is. It not only is you think that sometimes you enter what is the Java, right? If you enter these things, right? It is not only taking context of your current question. It is also taking a context of your entire history to certain extent. So automatically the limit, even if it is like 100,000, for example, considering it's like 100,000 limit of tokens, right? Average, like let's take an example, right? An OpenAI has a context limit of 100,000, right? For example, even you might be entering just one or two questions, but it is also taking a context from your history, how it will understand, how it will link the things that what you are asking for. You, right? Are we able to quantify the context limit? Is it by characters? Yes. Right. Correct. Right. So it is more like a based on tokens actually. So a word can be even one sentence can be like can be split into multiple tokens, right? So it's more like you can see character, but it is not usually a character. It's based on the tokens, how it converts into tokens. So I will walk you through how actually you can quantify it. But yeah, there's a, like, for example, 128K is the limit. So whatever sentence you are trying to enter, it will convert into this respective tokens. And if it actually, so that's why we usually say that we try to provide a very limited context that is required for the LLM to understand. So yes, you can do that. Crystal, yeah. So the second thing is that, let me go back to my slides. Tab. Yeah. Open process chunks, as we mentioned, right? We split the huge document into smaller chunks, like 500, 1500 characters. It is showing 500, 1500 characters, but ultimately when it goes to LLM, it actually converts into tokens, right? We have a slide, like we can get deep dive into what is the calculations and all, but let me complete this context and then we'll give you, we can either have a separate session or I can give you a context that how the calculation works, right? Because AI model have a limited memory, as I mentioned, smaller chunks are easier to search, and it's like a cutting up, like it's cutting like a pizza into slices, right? Now, thing is loading a document like PDF, reports, manuals. Of course, I've given more options as well, but in this for this particular session, I'm just keeping a context to PDF and CSV, right? PDF, TXT, and all, right? I can create a so based on that, right? For example, like let me take an example, right? So that you will understand further, like test dot txt. It's a local modeler, for example, right? Right. For example, like I say that okay, Tom is a good boy, right? Just an example, right? Right now, what I will do, I will create this, go back, and then maybe ingest it. It takes a sec. It takes some time. I'm just trying to connect the raw so that you know, right? Now I will go Python, and it's just a small example, but it will. Sorry. UI. This is an agent file that I created. It is using a very light version, PHI3 mini, so that it can easily run at your system. So that, right, is Tom a bad boy? Right, just example, right? So right, meanwhile it is responding. Right? It may take a couple of seconds. Right, we can go back. Report manual papers, right? The data tables, spreadsheet, you can always load those documents. We have a code for this. As you can see, these are the code that I've used over here in this here. If I go ingest, right? So make sure that whenever if you're using a different chroma, like if you see that I used a local collection name as local, so you can have different collection names, right? Persistent directory means it could be a part of your second persistent directory, or I can, even if I restart this, in my data will still remain, or it can still stay in our secondary in this data side. That is, it creates like this. It's like SQL3 in the form, so your data won't go away even if you like reload your environments at your local system. Otherwise, it's a pain for you to reload every time, right? Now, from LangChain PDF PI leader, I use, as you can see, PY PDF directory, globe, and all these things I've loaded it. Let me see that, yeah. So if you see that, I just read a simple sentence like, is Tom a bad boy, right? Assistant say no, Tom is. Let me show. No, Tom is not a bad boy. Based on provided context, that text only mentioned Tom is a good boy. So it has also given me the context as well, with no information suggestion otherwise. Therefore, we cannot conclude that he behaves badly. As for this runtime or speed actions, so there's no relevant data given about the Tom in this scenario, right? If you have any other questions, so you can see that how it actually searched for this in a text file that is loaded into a Chroma DB, and it is able to send this, right? Going to a second screen, right? Chunking documents that we were discussing, right? So as I mentioned, like answering to your question that I mentioned, right? Every LLM has a limited context, like a person should have a short-term memories, can only hold so much, right? Smaller chunks, more precisely retrieval. Now, smaller chunks has more precisely retrieval. Now, that's a very debatable topic, right? It is not always true that your smaller chunks, if your chunks are very small, it will always give you a right answer, right? Let me show you one matrix. I have it with me, so that it will give you a bit good idea that how you can do the chunkings, right? 1 second. Let me pull that matrix. It will help you. I have some scenarios. Let me do one thing. Let me pull this. I have some examples for myself. Let me take this as a, yeah, right. I just pull out some of the examples for you guys actually, so that you understand that it may not always be a true statement. Like, of course, for the context of this session, yes, it is true. But like, for example, if we have a scenario, a policy document so long, right? Maybe the idle size based on your document size, it could be a best chunk could be 600 to 1200 characters, right? Overlap could be 100 and 200 characters, right? Context is because why? Because the policy are more dense. So based on your density, as it mentioned, that based on the density of your document, you can always. But in this case, if I see this, it is written like a finding specific page versus searching, right? But if I go back to a smaller area, right, you will see that 800, 500 characters and all. But we also have a chunk size of 200 characters, right? At one place, I'm saying that it could go to 100 characters, but at some places I can see that, okay, it can go to 200 characters as well. Reason being, based on your context. So if we say marketing content, articles, blogs, articles are smaller. So within that article, maybe 100 words or 200 words, it's better to have a smaller chunks as compared to a bigger chunks, so that you can actually question more. You can extract more relevant informations, right? So similarly, if you have engineering notes like information text and FAQs, it could get more smaller, maybe 150 characters, because it's like direct question and answers, right? If you have FAQs, right? In your company, you may find that they are direct straightforward FAQs, right? Right. So, right, as I said, like that's very depends upon your use case. What could be the chunk size of what could be the chunk size? Accordingly, this statement can change, right? Smaller chunks are more precise and equals to more precise, right? Now, better semantic matching, yes, of course. So thing is that context could, based on your context, like if I'm questioning and based on your semantic search, the algorithms you use, there are different type of algorithms, right? You can actually it could be more focused content, right? Because if you have based on your requirement, you have created a chunks and it will be stored in your Chroma DB or any vector DB. And when I'm searching that particular question, for example, my question gets converted. If I have a query, right, it gets converted into a vector data vectors and right embeddings that we say, and then this embeddings will actually search in our vector database and see, and then try to get the like relevant context around that, so that less data to process and quicker results. So that will send less data, right? only relevant. It's not about less data. So sometimes you may get people get like confused that okay, sending less data to a LLM is better. The question, the right answer is sending relevant data as per your query from your vector database is more important. Even if it is, sometimes you may have like it can go up to 100 or 200 text lines of text. If it is going to LLM and if it is relevant to your context, then it could be better than having a smaller chunk. So it's a where, so you need to take a decision based on your use cases, right? Like real, like some real project scenarios, like customer chatbot we use a lot, like challenge 500 pages product manual, right? Chunks is 500 to 800, right? If we had legal documents, as I mentioned, like 1000 to 500 characters, right? Because of the technicalities, and of course the research papers that require, based on your, it could be one of the scenarios that you can think of, based on your density of the document text inside, you can actually break the text as well, right? When you're doing a splitter, you always have an option for a splitter. I haven't used much on the splitter side because I'm using it, right? But try different paragraphs, then lines. So you can define all those configurations when you're actually chunking it, right? Any questions so far? Can you explain the overlap? Did I answer that question, Suresh, when I was explaining this example? Or you need more clarity? Are you using GPU? One second. Are you using GPU on your system for the model? Yes, I have used GPU, but I have a different system that is using GPU. It's good, you know, like sometimes so there are two things, Sunil. Like one is there are lots of laptops or servers that we use actually, but of course there's a cost involved. If you're ready, if you can spend, it depends upon, like if it is a smaller models, you don't need very big GPUs, right? Like NVIDIA, you might have heard about NVIDIA 5800, all these things, right? I use them, but when I'm training the models, when I'm training my own LLMs, or especially when my Olama, when my local models are like 5 GB, 10 GB, 32 GB, like these are the things. So the processing is faster in GPUs, but it, of course, it's dependent upon, not everyone can spend, but I usually say that, okay, if you have a budget issues and all, right? And so you can always go for a small, like at least 16 GB RAM is sufficient for a smaller models, if depending upon the use case. But if you have bigger models, right, check the size and the computing cost, then you can go for a GPUs, right? I'm using gaming laptop and it's not bad for speed. It is good, yes, unless I exceed the 8 GB. Yes, absolutely. It's a good one. They have a NVIDIA GPU enabled, right? You can check the configurations that. So yes, it could. Yeah, right. That's true. Right. Now let's go to this part, understanding the embeddings, right? So that's also one of the most important topic that we usually I like to go through a bit, right? So let me see. So what do you mean? What do you understand by embeddings? Like anyone has a like a bit of the context that would like to share here? Okay, so basically embeddings, like if I go to the normal definitions, right? Embeddings, what are embeddings? Embeddings basically convert the text into list of numbers, so called vectors, right? Like what is, consider it as a normal number, right? We'll come to that. What are those numbers are, how they get generated, but think in think in this way. Like I've given a very real life scenario. Like for example, if there's a every city, right? Not every city exactly as well. Every locality have their own GPS locations, right? So think like this: like if every sentence get GPS coordinates in meaning city, similar meanings are close together, and different meanings are far apart, right? So the cat sat on the mat. It's very like a common example that we say, take it, and it converts into vector DB, right? Typically around 384 to 156. Of course, that we'll discuss that what is the best dimension suited for your scenarios, but let's take it for now 384 to 1536 dimensions, right? And how does it works basically, right? Neural networks are basically like trained on billions of text examples and learning patterns, right? When I started studying neural networks, I used to think that, okay, how LLM knows that where to place the cat, where to place the man, and all these things, right? Then I started thinking that okay, how it knows? Isn't it a relevant question that I used to ask myself, and when I started trying to get into when like some years back. Then I started understanding how the neural networks works, right? Of course, that I know it's a very detailed session, but we'll take up that's the fundamentals of AIs and all. But think in this way that uh, older models, the previous models, right? Like long time back, maybe at least few years back, they used to have a dictionary. They used to use dictionaries and all, right? Consider that AI already have an Oxford dictionary, and it knows that how to group the words, right? Now, after the transformers and all these things came into picture, the then the concept has been changed a lot in last few years when we are training these neural networks. Now they have used different corpus. There's a term called corpus, right? Corpus is a data sets. Training the data against that corpus so that it has actually logically grouped it into different dimensions. Let me take a very small. I will take 1 minute to make you understand that how it's just one like 1 or 2 minutes I would like to take, right? Think in this way. These are dimensions. My drawing is pathetic, so excuse me. Apologies. So LLM already created a different. It already trained on certain models. I won't say that it's like based on words particularly. It already has certain trained models that is grouped. So it may have multiple dimensions. When we say that 540, when we say that 1536 dimensions, right? It's basically different dimensions, right? So the more the dimension are, the more granular it is, right? Because more densely populated areas are there, right? Each dimension capture a different aspects, right? Grammars, topics, sentiments. Similar meanings produce similar number of patterns, right? Like if you give this example, king, man equals to queen, right? So if I go equals to, then that means it is already, let me try to see that. Let me give this example to this. It may take some time meanwhile. But all these contexts, it is all being trained with billions of text examples, right? You might have heard a word called that, okay, that our LLM is trained on billions of data. Our Gemini newer version is trained on these number of data. So these are the things that it actually tells us. Right? Now, if I go to semantic similarity, how the semantic similarity works, right? If I say dog and puppy are very much similar. Because of this trained on billions of text examples, it actually puts a dog and puppy together. It can actually king and queen, car and banana, right? Right. So car and banana. So why this matters is find semantic search find mean not just the keywords, because it actually the data on which it is trained, like a neural network trained on billion text, it is already trained so that it has already relations established in itself. So it knows that these will man and king and queen will come more it will more whenever the data is high, it will come more closer. The reason is that it already have a lots of data in itself. When selecting a local LLM should be a factor. What should be a factor? Yes, it's a long list, Crystal. I will share that because there. Let me show you. I have a long. 1 second. So you will see I actually am using like so many models here, right? I will actually, and everyone has its own relevance. Like for example, DeepSeek Coder has a own relevance. If you want to go more friendly, you have a DeepSeek LLMs. If you have Olama, right? PHI is a smaller version of it. PHI minimum is very lightweight. You can see. Let me give you this actually. I will share this screenshot as well. So you can see there we have very lighter versions of model as well, 7760 MB. We have like a bigger models as well, 2.2 GB and many more, right? So the 4.7 GB as well. So there are different Llama model you can actually use. But as I said, every model like has their own factors. Like for example, like what token computation cost, how many like evaluations, right? Context size. So I will share that matrix with you, and maybe we can take that example. So semantic search, like for example, coming back to a context, finding meetings, not just a keyword. How do I reset matches, password reset steps, right? So basically, it's try to find the search of it, right? It tries to find the similar context and try to put the things together, right? Any so far anything? Any questions? Yeah, anyone? So let me see the window. Anyone has it on? So as I said, like Crystal, I will share that matrix with you. Of course, it's a long list. Like it depends on model size, hardwares, maybe like of course there's reasonable speed, latency. So they have context length, as I mentioned. So there are multiple factors. So I will share that accordingly. So based on the context and based on your use cases, what is the best case scenario to implement your, so we can so based on that we can discuss that. Maybe you can do one thing, maybe whenever you have time we can discuss that in a Discord channel, so that in more in detail, that what is the best, what are the use cases you have, and accordingly we can come to a couple of models that is best for your use case, right? Yes, on Discord. Yeah, please feel free to feel free to buzz, and I will share that matrix with you. I already have it, but I can discuss it in this session. But I know we already we can have a separate, very detailed session. I think that will everyone can benefit from that session, because I've been using multiple LLMs a lot from last as well. What is it could be the different one, right? Creating the embeddings, right? Open sources, sentence transformers, like there are different ways of embedding. You can create the embeddings from. If I go back to my ingest, you will see that, right? I've used Nomic embed text from there, right? Olama, right? Hugging Face we also have. So different local and cloud APIs. I like using, preferably I usually like using the one that is locally available. Why pay money for creating the embeddings? I always feel like, honestly, unless the client is ready to pay that money, right? We all whenever I'm working on the projects, so I usually for my personal projects I love to use the local LLMs, like, right, based on different. So yeah, but like there are many cloud APIs, many giants use, so because of the accuracies and other factors, right? So yes, you have both options. No, it doesn't. But it doesn't cost, the cost is only the resources, because it's already there, right? I have already bought the laptop or the server, right? Unless you are using the AWS services or GCPs, then only the cost will be the hardware cost, right? But when you go to these API, these are third party, it increases the cost because they are like multinationals, right? Unless you have a like a, giant budget, and because and you have, or you don't want to take a hassle of you have using it on your own hardwares, then possibly you can go with these third party APIs, and of course the accuracy and is much more, right? And they give much more options, right, as well. So it's upon whether it's faster or not, it depends upon the hardware as well that you're using. So as if you're using a very highly computed GPU systems, then definitely it will be faster, right? So we have a Black Friday coming, so we can actually utilize this time in order to get a cheap and very like efficient laptops, right? Yes. We have different vector databases, right? Chroma, Vengon, PG vectors. So depending upon different use cases, you can actually use, right? Yeah, hybrid search, GraphQLs, production ready, right? So we can actually use. I'm using ChromaDB for now because it's a quick one and we can spin up easily, right? Now, creating a vector store, as I already mentioned, how to create a vector store. I already created a vector store with collections, names, and persistent directories, right? Simple, right? Chunks, embeddings, persistent, whether it's persistent to save a disk, I enabled it to save into a disk, right? And that's why it is able to save it, right? And then we have going back to the how the semantic works. Basically, like converting your question into the embeddings first, as I've already mentioned, right? What is currently happening is if I go to the agent, right? Let's go to understand the every step of this, right? I will share the guide as well. So what is happening? I sent a question, right? This question came up and it actually lowers it, right? It goes to the agent, right? Then it converts this, first of all, this question into the embeddings. It convert because the Chroma DB in the Chroma DB, it can do that internally, right? But usually there could be certain databases like PG vectors, it doesn't convert automatically. So that's why you don't see that step on conversion, right? We have already defined the dimensions in it, so it already took care of it, right? Now I actually use this in order to further retrieve the document, right? I go here and let me increase the size of, right? That is, I hope this makes sense, right? Right. I use this vector DB. I use this on my like embeddings, right? I already defined it was Chroma DB. You should use this embedding so that when internally it can use this question and convert it into internally, right? It already has a collection name over here, and then based on that, I use the first top 3 searches. If you see that I mentioned over here that I just need a top 3 results from this. Let me show you. So by default, it is top 3 results are 2. So that's why it is feeding. If I pass it any other 3, 4, I can do that as well, right? Now, based on that, it actually found that based on this embeddings, right, and like it's actually converted the question into embeddings, right? If I go back to this answer, right? If I see this particular focus on this particular example, right? So what it does, it converted my question into the embeddings at this particular step, right? Because I already, when I passed this question, right? And so it retrieved the document that is relevant to that. And then it actually passed this document along with that into the agent. So if I go into the RAG chain, now it has invoked the LLM. And then it is returning the context. So these are the steps. If I go back, RAG agent is ready. If it says let me trace the steps again. I go to the agent. Simple. This agent let me tell you, this is an agent, make an agent, right? Simple. It goes and retrieve the documents, right? When it retrieves it in the relevant context, it goes here into the RAG chain because ultimately the return is the content that is went through LLM. Then it joins the context, right? It joins the question, that is the augmentation. Retrieval is part of this. Augmentation means this part, joining the context, the question, and the relevant context that has been fetched, and then sending it to the LLM. So augmentation is this step that we are talking about, so that it can actually enrich the content that we are sending to LLM with the question and the retrieved documents format, right? And then ultimately it sends it to the LLM at this step, so that now it can actually run down. That's why it is returning this particular assistant, right? And which LLM I'm using currently? I'm using this particular LLM, that is PHI mini, because it's very lightweight. If I go back to that LLM, you will see that PHI minimum is hard. So PHI mini, if PHI mini, if I take an example, it's 2.2 GB, right? I can always go for smaller versions of 776 MB, smaller further, right? Based on my use case. But I use this, right? If I go back, then convert your question into embeddings, Chroma, your question vector into a check vectors, find the closest matches, because I already told that I need a top 2 results only, right? Now, return the top results, return the top 2 results in my case here, And then finally, how do I reset? So it's just an example. How do I will match the password even though they share no words, right? It is actually written the same thing. Convert your query into embeddings compared to all documents, right? Let me take an example, right? So vector search, similarity search that we have, right? And then it find the top 3 results, and ultimately it returns with those documents that you are going to send to LLM, right? Similarly, we have like I'm just getting more into details. Like, of course, retrieve. In my case, it's retrieve questions, and then finally retrieve context, building prompts, and LLM generation, and answer the sources, right? Now, the prompt engineering has its own important part of this, because you need to. There's a separate slide. There's a separate presentation I've added. Basically, the tone you want the people you are representing, and the task you want it to do. Basically, a task, system context, and role. It's I always prefer to define it in a very clearly instructions. The better the instructions is, the better your LLM will understand that in which type, in a which way it needs to respond. So it is also important that you should tell like you cannot say that, okay, like you cannot say like I need a very give me a factorial, right? If I then let me take an example, right? Let me take an example of right, tell me like a Java factorial as a and explain me as a business analyst. So I'm defining the context. It will take some time. So I'm defining the context so that it will know that okay, if for this particular in this way I need to respond to it, right? So answer based on the provided context. If the answer is in, then I say I don't have enough. So you can actually define your rules in which it needs to respond, right? So that's why it is important. I know we are like a bit running out of time, but yeah, I can just immediately slide off, right? There are 2 ways: command line interface, web interface. So for web interface, you can use Streamline. I use the Streamline as well, is right. But command line interface, I'm using it right now. As you can see that like you can use while true because it never ends. So that's why in a Python, you can keep on asking, it will keep on popping up unless you say quit, right? So it's a simple way, right? Fastest to build 5 lines, best for testing, right? Whenever you're testing your LLM, it's better to use CLI. But when you're actually, now you think that, okay, you can add, for the interfacing, you can use Streamlight, actually. Now, I've actually explained everything, like how you need to install. So some of you might be thinking that how we can set up these things. I've created every single step. You can install the LangChain, Chroma, DB, then load it, and then create a vector DB from documents, right? QA chain, and then ultimately answer, right? So it's a very clear steps that I've added, right? Now chunking, as I already mentioned, I have better for these are the. This is one of the important things when you are actually going towards a production as well. So tips for improving the accuracy, like experiment with different sizes of character chunk overlappings. Use 10%. It's not a rule, let me tell you, but it depends upon your requirement that use 10% to 20% overlap to avoid losing context. But it may go to 20-30% as well. It can go to 1% as well. So think in this way, not like of course don't think that it's a very like a calculated number, right? So like some of the folks might have answered question that, okay, Nishit, that is there any fixed rule? In most of the cases, I always feel like that I go with my own experiences. The more you work on it, you will get an experience that what are the best decisions you can take in order to get it. So don't always go by the numbers unless it is like unless it is a limitation of your LLM, right? So think in this way, right? Use domain specific or larger embeddings. So it depends upon your use case. Retrieve 3 to 5. You can also, like, usually preferable 3 to 5 is a good number, but even if it is going to 5 or 6 sometimes in your use cases, then it's fine as well. Suppose you have a very, let me give you an example, right? If you have a certain context that is very similar to each other, right, then you may think that, okay, I can still get 5 or 6 top searches and let the LLM find out the best one, right? the closest one, right? So it depends upon a use case as well, that it's 3 to 5 is a very optimistic one, right? Asking for advice, right? Hybrid search, combining semantic search with a keyword search, and metadata filtering. Now the thing is, I explained in one of my previous sessions that metadata filtering is quite important, right? Reason is it helps you to narrow down your searches, right? I took an example that, okay, if we talk about the bank, whether it's a river bank or it's actually a financial institution, if you are adding a metadata into it, you can easily identify and you can reduce and optimize your searches because it reduces the context of semantic search, right? So second thing is that, like, sometimes you might have noticed that if you have 100 or 200 GBs of data, right? If you have 100 or 200 GB of data, is it always practical? And so take an example. You have 200 GBs of data in your mainframe systems, right? Most of, I think, if anyone of like working in these kind of old systems, right? Is it possible that we convert 200, 300 GBs of vector into vector DB? The answer is yes, but can you do that in one go? Maybe not. There's always lots of compliances in big institutions that it restricts you. Now the thing came up. It's I'm just I know it's not of the context, but it's important for the especially the professionals who want to build there, who has a very large. For example, this is the terabyte of data, right? Can you convert this into the vector DB immediately? So, and suppose you have this is in your mainframes. I'm just giving an example, mainframe or any other system, right? I think some of you might connect, right? Maybe like some Salesforce or something else. You have 100 terabytes of data, for example, right? But your vector DB is of only 100 GB, right? How you will do that? These problems we face sometimes. I've faced this in one of my projects, right? How I can convert the 1,000 terabyte of data and I cannot do that, right? And convert into 100 GB. It's not possible. Now, when we talk about the products, here you need to understand the product engineering. It will help you actually, what I'm trying to explain, right? You actually do the referencings. There's a term called referencing. You actually you don't convert everything, right? You convert only the relevant attributes and then change it into vector DB and then use the references here. So if you maybe you can convert, like, there are certain attributes, like a few attributes you can convert into the vector DB. I mean, save it as embeddings, and then further you can add a links so that if the user queries something, you can immediately reply to it. And still, if the person needs more information, this LLM can further direct a proper action to a relevant microservice or service that can take the steps and then get the data for it, right? So we need to, when we are solutioning any chatbot, we need to think that, okay, about the scaling of it for the best performance, right? If we cannot, it's not practical that if the response time is not more than couple of seconds, I mean, it's more than couple of seconds, the person will not going to go to that LLM anymore, right? Right. So that is why it is very important that maybe combining the semantic search with a keyword search. Yes, that is for different contexts, right? For example, you can use the proper keywords for it. And metadata and references is important when you're actually dealing with a lot of data. Right? Now, when we talk about the performance optimizations, there are different ways of it. I will share the slides: speed, cachings, cost, scalability, right? And batch processing multiple docs at once, like washing all the dishes together, not at one time, right? But also depends upon based on, sometimes we use sharding kind of a concept in databases further, or in order to further divide it. Sharding is basically dividing it based on certain domains or specifically, right? Smaller LLMs we can use based on load balancings, definitely. Async operations, non-blocking queues, so that your operations don't get blocked. Caching responses, right? Incremental updates on docs. You cannot put all the dump into one go into vector DB, right? You can always go. That's why that is the best way, best thing that happened to us. That is using retrieval augmented generation. So you can actually do the incremental way of smaller models versus like using the scooter for shorter trips and not a truck thing in this way. So that is another answer of one of the folks' question, that based on that, like use your LLM very smartly, right? Let me take an example. I was using in one of the coding agent, right? And I use DeepSeek coder, but DeepSeek has different versions of it, right? So if I use the DeepSeek coder, like it might be a lighter version, based on the context I'm sharing to that, right? But if I go and use a bigger LLM, maybe a 32 GB version of it, it may not be of my use because my context is smaller than 32 GB, right? Or vice versa, right? Optimize chunks, fewer tokens, or lower cost. Yes, the cost is one of the important factors, right? And monitoring the track performance, right? Uh, I will have one session of called observability of the data models. Like, so we'll set up some tools, how you can observe the data going from in and out LLM, how you can manage how you can monitor the tokenizations, and how you can manage the tokens, and how any data is going for in and outside the LLM. So we'll set up one session on top of it as well. Yeah. Common pitfalls that we need to make. I know that we are overrunning by 12 minutes, but I will share the slides as well. But chunking too large, like no source citation, as I mentioned in one of our discussion, that it's better to provide some in certain scenarios. It's order user can't verify information or find original documents. So this will actually helps us, that like a friend giving advice but refusing to say where they heard it. So it's also good to give us citations so that it gives more reliability, especially for the customer facing platforms, but not true in always the cases. Ignoring a metadata, as I mentioned, like reading a news article without knowing if it's from the 224 or 1984. So that is also important, that you send the relevant metadata when you're saving any context to a vector database. So that also reduce. So for example, if I take an example that, okay, I want like a plane crash that happened in 2024 and 2020, and I send an information to that. So there's a possibility that it can give me the information that a plane crash that happened in 2000, but I'm asking for 2024. So that will, there the metadata helps you in order to narrow down the search and get your results faster and less hallucinated, or maybe, of course, 0.00%, 1% chance will always be there, but it will always reduce your hallucinations, right? Not handling, I don't know. LLM makes you answer when information isn't in the document. So prompt say, I don't have enough information. So you need to handle this as well. LLM makes answer when information is in the document. So, right. Some of the real world scenarios are like customer support, like legal search, as I've already mentioned, business intelligence, education, research, right? And this is a complete code, right? Of it. Anyone has any questions so far about this? Any point that you think that, okay, you are unable to follow anything, I'm happy to discuss further. No, please, you can like unmute yourself and we can yeah, go ahead. Anyone? Yeah, please. I think presentation is done. Like, you can feel free to ask any questions if you like to. I know we have over by 15 minutes. Apologies, but sometimes these kind of discussions actually, takes some more time required. So yeah, please go ahead. So I request you that we are starting with our Python sections actually. So I suggest that, okay, please start joining. Is this on AI DevWorks? Yes. Yeah, I will put that slide. Yes, aidevworks.org. So we'll upload that slides, right? Also, as I said, let's try to make this group more interactive, right? So that any questions, anything, please feel free to ask, and so that we can collaborate and build more, right? And we'll have more and more frequent workshops. Like usually we are connecting like every week, but why not? We can use the entire week, like our free time, to experiment and ask questions anywhere, right? and I will try to share more informations. And right. Could you share the slides? Yes, definitely. And could you also share the links to your apartment? Let me tell you, I can if my screen is available, right? You can see that. Go and see this slide. Um, Go and just check the events section of this site. I've added some more as well. Yeah. I'm more a C++ developer. I have LLM llama.cpp. Want to try this using one of those languages. So yeah, so I think yeah, that's a good one actually. C hash developer. I've looked at, yeah. So yes, we can actually if maybe we can interact in a Discord group, Sunil, and we can actually get you some of the more relevant content. Yeah. So for the C hash, of course, so that I have some more experts on that is more on C hash actually, so that we can actually provide you more help on this if you have any questions. But as I said, feel free to ask any questions in the Discord group. Let me tell you, I'm more on Java, Python, on all these things, and yeah, I can share this.
Hi, I'm Sherry. I have a question.
Yes.
Have you ever run this RAG through in like a container
Docker?
while accessing your local documents?
Yes, Docker. You mean Docker, right?
Yeah.
Dockerization. Yes, definitely. We can. Yeah. Yes.
Is there a way to give it access to a specific folder without giving it entire access to your local environment?
Yes, you can actually restrict it. That's called entitlements.
Okay.
You can use it. So let me tell you, when you are designing your vector DB, let me take an example of vector DB. You can also add some columns, right? You can create your own entitlement set of tables, groups, users, role based, and then you can actually further restrict a user based on their user ID or the token that you have created for your application, and based on that you can check with which that particular token or user or a person is entitled to which set of documents, so that whenever I as a user is querying your system, right, my query will only go to those documents for which I'm entitled to through the so yeah. Does it answer your question, Shani?
Yeah. I think I was just not familiar with yeah.
I've designed one application, maybe as I said, have you joined our Discord group so far?
Yeah.
Sure.
Let me go ahead and join.
Yeah, please do that. I have created one application, so similar to that, what you're asking. It is more entitlement driven, and I will share some references to you, right? And so, and if you need any help, please let me know. I'm happy to help. So let me share this link as well. Let's see, you can join this group, right? I've worked on these projects independently, but would love to work in the team settings for once. Yeah, definitely. We love to have more because we all are coming from different industries, right? I might not I might have worked in some industry, and you guys have worked on different industry. We can collaborate and create bigger LLMs, bigger chatbots, and bigger or cater more use cases actually. So let's try to be more interactive in our group, Discord group. I'm always active on a Discord group, definitely. Right, you will always see in every few hours I will reply, and on weekends I'm there. So, and we can always huddle. Get on call as well. And if there's any issue that we need to address, so yeah, let's make it more interactive, right? Crystal would like to share more of your scenarios. Like to add anything? You can unmute yourself if you'd like to.
Hi, yes. So, what was your question? You said something about scenarios.
Means you'd like to share your any real life scenario, any of your projects, like to share any use cases you have.
Well, I have been experimenting with using Gemma on a SEO, search engine optimization keyword generator,
Oh.
where we feed it context and it will generate like it will pull from different libraries um, like Google Trends and whatnot, and suggest keywords to add to metadata in a video or photo.
Oh, okay. That's good actually. Of course, that's also that's quite new to me as well. So yeah, that's quite interesting. So wow.
But when I mentioned in the chat, anyone want to work on a team project based on this presentation, I kind of would love to, like, as a follow up for this discussion. I mean, it's one thing for us to listen and to watch, but to actually dig into it and work on it together and learning from each other. I would love to do something like that. So like maybe we could, like maybe a team of 3 or 4 people even
Yeah.
could just get together in a call and make a chat box that that can suggest it could be any topic. So like maybe one person, they're passionate about video games, one person is passionate about healthcare, and then so we're like, okay, well, what if we come up with an idea that combines all of our passions and then just one little simple project, something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah,
Oops.
so I think like I have just to add what you said, maybe like of course we can I have one of the sessions that is coming on MCP servers, right? MCP servers where we can actually create different agentics, right? And maybe every agentic is catering some set of domains, right? And maybe like so that will actually kind of cater everyone's interest. Maybe we'll work on one particular agent, right? Like a specialized agent, and then we can replicate in different type of domains specific, right? So yeah, we can actually like yeah, I can speak on personal projects I'm trying to get going. Yeah, definitely. Sunil, please go
Yeah.
ahead.
So one thing I'm doing with a personal project, I used to work for a company that did tax work, and the IRS tax documents are completely online. They're really cool to develop a chatbot where you can ask ask questions about taxes, and hopefully you'll get English answers back as opposed to legalese answers. But yeah, I thought that would be an interesting project because the data's there and it's ideal for RAG type things.
Wow, okay, that's cool. Yeah, so we can so that could be like one of the things we can take up as well. Yeah. Sunil, have you joined our Discord group? If you
I
haven't
have.
joined, yeah, definitely. Yeah. So yeah, I think Crystal and Sunil, these are great ideas. We can like let's do that. Like yeah, we can actually we can create a maybe a study like we can create a group and like let's involve and start working on these projects, mini projects, right? And so let me once we are also already starting with a Python session, so we'll create one individual groups, like it's a cohort kind of a thing, and we can take one project and let's create a group so that everyone can contribute. And what I will do, maybe I can create a new repository, right, on a GitHub, right? And maybe so that we can start working together on that repository and share our ideas. And maybe let's do one thing. Let me create one document as well so that we can put together our ideas and we can come to a common page, and then we can start working on that idea. Like what's your thought?
Okay, that sounds great. Can you be like a project leader that
Yeah,
can kind of
sure,
allocate like who does
sure,
what,
sure,
and maybe
absolutely.
that way we could like
Mhm.
it would almost be like we're simulating a real scenario
Yeah.
we're in the workplace.
If
Yeah.
if we're using GitHub for coordination, then anybody should be able to work on any piece of code and do pull requests and so forth.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, so let me. So we already have a GitHub repository. We are setting up for AI DevWorks as well. So let me do that, and we'll create one, and then we can collaborate together. And I will create one document and a project plan based on our ideas. right? So let's brainstorm on Discord. Of course, we are already connecting like every week on this platform, but let's make it more interactive. And let me roll out one document on the today itself, and with a high level project plan, and then we'll brainstorm that what are the different ideas, and accordingly we can actually start dividing based on a discussion. We can start with the POCs for every based on our finalizing the idea. We'll start working on POCs that is required to as a complete picture of that project, and then we can start putting the blocks together, right? So we'll divide. First, we'll finalize the idea. Second, we'll find out that what are the POCs required in order to accomplish these ideas. Then the third thing is that we can actually start splitting the task between us, right? Whosoever is interested in collaborating, and then we can create we can use the of course, I can actually do one thing. Actually, we can use a Jira board as well further in order to further better project management, and that you can actually share the progress as well. So that will be interesting. Entire project we can work together, right? How does it sound?
Yeah, I think that sounds great. Working with project management like Jira and splitting. Yeah, I think we got something good, a good idea starting going.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Okay. That sounds really fine. Like, let's crack on with this. I think the next couple of us, you will see lots of things coming on this Discord group, and I will create a separate channel as well, right? Like maybe our project 1, something like this, like MVP. Like this. So I will just name it, and then let's start contributing, and I will start sharing information on that channel, and let's brainstorm. Even if we require to connect like after office hours based on everyone's availability, we can just have a quick huddle on that. Yeah.
Thank you so much for having us. I learned quite a bit. I'm definitely gonna practice, and I look forward to working and learning from everyone.
Yeah. Yes. That's a good opportunity, like for every one of us too. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I think yeah. Thank you so much, everyone. And let's interact more on the Discord group, right? Like, let's keep it more interactive. Yeah. Thank you so much. I appreciate everyone's time, and yeah, good to learn from each other. Yeah. Thanks. Thank you so much. Like, have a nice weekend. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.